What's the word from the campaign, friends of Donald J. Trump, as we're in the final stretch here, the final countdown? We got Mark Lotter in the house. He is Director of Strategic Communications for the Trump campaign. He's out in the great state of Ohio. Hey, Mark, how's it going out there?
I'm doing well. You know, we're not Hillary Clinton. We don't ignore states. We want to win.
Yeah, I'm excited that Ohio and Michigan and North Carolina, these are places the Trump campaign is intimately familiar with. So that's very good. Tell us how things are looking right now. I mean, I want to ask you about the national level and get your sense of what we're going to be hearing tomorrow at the debate. But first, Ohio is the state that people think of as a must win, right? Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania. What are we looking like in Ohio right now?
No question that the president's going to win Ohio. In fact, a lot of people forget he won it by 4 times the margin that George W. won it in 2004. I mean, that's how much of a huge cushion he has. And it's easy to see why Ohio and Pennsylvania, Michigan, the industrial Midwest would support President Trump, because when you contrast the two messages, you know, Joe Biden, higher taxes, voted for NAFTA, cheerleader for China. President Trump cut taxes, brought jobs back, fighting China to bring even more jobs back. It's a really clear message, and it's a really clear choice for them.
Now, what's next on the agenda? You know where the campaign's going to be heading. I mean, this gives us a sense, let's say, you know, from the rest of this week into next week, where is the president going to be, and I should say the president and the campaign going to be focusing their energy, and give us a sense of what the message is here to close things out.
Yeah, I mean, it won't surprise you. Obviously, the states that we'll be in. Obviously, you know, we're in Ohio, we're in Pennsylvania. The vice president was in New Hampshire this afternoon. We'll be in Florida, North Carolina, Michigan, obviously Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arizona, Nevada. I mean, those are the states. Those are the states that are really, the key states in the outcome of this election.
Speaking of Mark Lotter, he is Director of Strategic Communications for the Trump campaign. And Mark, you know, the president's pitch when he goes into these key battleground states, I mean, I know that we're going to be hearing it from him at the debate tomorrow, but give us a sense as to what the president is saying, particularly on the economic recovery.
Well, on the economic recovery, it's very simple. And it shifts a little bit depending on where you are. Like you saw the president in Pennsylvania last night. He's actually playing clips of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris talking about ending fracking, which they, of course, deny they ever said. So you'll have those kinds of targeted messages in certain areas. But in the most cases, that recent Gallup poll, 56% of Americans said they are better off now than they were 4 years ago under Barack Obama and Joe Biden. So reminding him of the folks of all of that success, where we had historic low unemployment, we had wage gains bigger for people at the bottom than at the top. We saw the income gap closing for Black Americans and Hispanic and Latino Americans. So you will continue to see that. You'll continue to see this president say he's going to fight to bring more manufacturing back to the U.S., which is something that Joe Biden talks about but never actually got around to doing in 47 years. In fact, he did the exact opposite. He sent jobs overseas. So the economic message is still going to be, you know, obviously one of the number one drivers. Coronavirus obviously is going to also be top of mind. But then the new information that's coming out about really just the level of corruption and scandal going on with the Biden family, that's obviously something that's also going to be top of mind.
The president is out there saying that he thinks the corruption stretches all the way to Joe Biden himself. It's not just Hunter Biden, for whom now there's ample early evidence of corruption. Do you think the president's going to try to confront the would-be president, Joe Biden, tomorrow on this issue on stage?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if the moderator won't ask these difficult questions, then you know the president's going to want to bring that up. And ultimately, we've got to remember that this is about Joe Biden, because, you know, Hunter Biden was selling access to his vice president father. He was selling his connections to getting people meetings with his vice president father, who was running the policy shops on those areas under the the Obama administration. So without Joe Biden's compliance, without his knowledge, none of those influence campaigns would have worked. So he obviously knew it, and there's obviously a lot of evidence showing he knew it, whether it was meetings arranged, photos taken, and it's also not just Hunter Biden. We know that there has been documented from mainstream media outlets about Joe Biden's brother cashing in and how his son-in-law has cashed in. And so this is a problem that permeates the entire Biden family, but it ultimately all goes to the elected office holder, which is Joe Biden.
Speaking of Mark Lotter, Director of Strategic Comms for the Trump campaign. Mark, how is the ground game for this campaign? I mean, you're working on it day to day. You're in the trenches. Frank Luntz said something in the last day or so about how he thought this campaign was, well, I'm sure you heard what he said. He is thinking that this is a poorly run operation. Everybody that I know who works for the campaign says that that's just insane. What should people know who are really rooting for Trump in this last leg about the kind of efforts that are being made and what's being done to get out the vote in those, particularly those critical battleground states?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Buck, I was on the 2016 campaign as well, and it's night and day. I mean, we have the largest volunteer grassroots army in the history of presidential politics, even more volunteers than Barack Obama had in 2012. And they're out there working. And just last week, they made over 10 million, nearly 11 million voter contacts in a week. That is double what we were doing at this point in the 2016 race. They've already touched more than 130 million voters. In 2016, we did 33 million voters. So we are just blowing off the doors off of what we did then and won, and what we're doing now. And I think that's what's really going to show up. We're seeing it in voter registration advantage when we cut 200,000 Democrats, their lead in the state of Pennsylvania by 200,000. We cut the lead in Florida by 100,000. We've cut the lead in Iowa, in Wisconsin. All of that stuff you can't just invent. And Joe Biden doesn't have enough money to try to create it in the last 15 days. We've been doing this for a year and a half, 2 years almost. And that's where I think that's what's really going to put the president over the top. The energy, enthusiasm of the Trump supporters and our phenomenal effort of being able to identify and get out our voters.
We just had Sean Parnell running, he's running out in Pennsylvania's 17th congressional district. He's a good friend of mine for many years. He was on the show yesterday. We were talking about this Supreme Court decision, 4-4, reverted back down to the lower court, which had said in Pennsylvania that they're going to be able to count ballots that arrive up to 3 days after the election. How concerned is the campaign right now that no matter what the tally is on election night in Pennsylvania, Democrats are going to say, well, if it comes down to Pennsylvania, we're not going to concede. They're going to drag it out?
Oh, I'm very concerned. And I'm also very concerned about Nevada, because those are now two states where they're actually saying they will accept ballots by the end of the week that aren't postmarked. I mean, that's just unbelievable. We don't have election week in our country. We have election day. We don't have a tax deadline month or week. We have a tax deadline day. You have to get it in by this day. And if you can't prove it, well, then that's a problem. And it also provides an opportunity for fraud and abuse when Democrats wake up in, machine-controlled Philadelphia or out in Nevada and go, how many more votes do we need? And they suddenly go and find them. It should be very concerning. It should be another reason why everyone who's worried, everyone who loves this country, loves this president, make sure you get out and get your vote counted, because you don't know what kind of shenanigans the Democrats will pull on the backside. We've got to run up the score so much that they can't cheat and steal it away from the president. As
we're getting to the last lap of the race, Mark, for people out there, yes, obviously you got to get out there and vote. That's step one. Is there anything else, though? Are they able at this late stage to just help in some way with the campaign, to volunteer? Or is there anything that people who are listening to this across the country, including in a lot of those battleground states, can do at this stage? I mean, what would you, for people who feel like President Trump getting reelected is essential to the most prosperous and free future of this country, what when they ask me, I always say, okay, well, I try to give them some ideas. You're on the campaign. What can they do to help, if anything?
Well, the easiest thing they can do is sign up at armyfortrump.com. It's the volunteer website. But if nothing else, if you don't want to do it officially, what I know the vice president likes to say it, friends don't let friends vote alone. So go out and make sure that you get everyone you know to the ballot box. Everyone who's out there who's old enough and registered, supports this president, make sure that if they need a ride, if they need help with, getting an absentee ballot or just, getting to the polls, make sure that everyone understands how important this is. And as a perfect example, in New Hampshire, we lost New Hampshire in 2016 by 2,600 votes. Every vote matters.
Mark Lauder, Director of Strategic Communications for the Trump campaign. Mark, I know you're going to sprint through the tape, so we'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much for joining.
Good talk to you, Buck.
Got a debate tomorrow night. Get ready for the journos to all tell you what I could write for them now. The script. It'll be Donald Trump lied. Joe Biden was presidential. Joe Biden won by a mile. Right? We all know. It's not like they're really going to assess this thing based on what's said and what happens. No, there's no interest in that. Come on. All kinds of nonsense. We know that's not going to happen. And my favorite will be the fact checkers. Oh, the fact checkers. These people, the media is so corrupt that they've actually ruined fact checking. Because it's very straightforward. There are things that are observable, and it's demonstrably true that there's only one answer to a question, right? There's only one. Who was president in the year, 2002, right? That's George W. Bush is the only answer. There's no other answer. There's no debate. There's, fact. There's a fact. Okay. They say things like masks work. They think that's a fact. Well, works how well and when and how and what does that mean? That's much more open-ended, but they confuse these things. Right? They confuse these. Do masks work to stop a chemical weapons attack? No, they don't. So masks work is obviously not just a fact statement. You need to have more specificity to it. But they love to do that. And then they also like to add unnecessary context as a fact check to undermine the point that the Republican makes. So get ready for this too. They'll say, Donald Trump says that the economy was in slow growth state under 2%, I think it was, at the end of the Obama presidency, GDP-wise, 2% growth. And, and Trump will say that in the debate, and then the fact checker will come in from one of these places, PolitiFact, or they're all left-wing outfits. And they'll say, mostly true. And they'll say, yes, Donald Trump's allegation about GDP under the Obama administration is technically true, but Donald Trump is a white supremacist. And you're like, wait, what? But what does that have to do with that? Like, they love to do that. They love the unnecessary context added in to just take a shot at somebody to make their audience, their reading audience, feel happier that, okay, yeah, fine, what Trump said is true, but let's throw something else in there about how Trump is awful. That's their version of fact-checking. And here's CNN's fact checker. You can imagine what this guy's like. Whatever you say, Mr. Stelter and Mr. Zucker, whatever you say. Play 16.
Yeah, the quantity has increased and the breadth of the false claims has increased. So what was notable to me about this Friday to Sunday period was that he made 66 separate false claims. So that's not even counting the repeats of these same false claims. Like sometimes he'd say the same thing at 5 different rallies. It was 66 entirely different false things at minimum. That's the minimum count. And the other striking thing to me was that a lot of these false claims were written into his texts. So through the course of Trump's presidency, most of his lying has been ad-libbed. It's just kind of Trump being Trump. But in campaign season, what I find is that his staff, his team, puts a lot of this dishonesty in his prepared text. It's dishonesty as a deliberate campaign strategy.
They're just lying about, everything. And they even lie in the campaign materials and speeches. It's all lies and lies. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to take the media seriously about who lies when they're going around and their primary talking point is Russian disinformation is the reason for the Hunter Biden laptops. You have no credibility when you do that. No person of good judgment and intelligence listens to somebody who will say with a straight face that this is Russian disinformation, the Hunter Biden laptop. Of course, as we know, there are so many people that don't care. We'll do that anyway. But the fact checker, it's great. The fact checkers know Trump lies so much we can't even keep track of all the lies. Sure, buddy. That's the way it really is. That's how we have to focus in on all of this. It's outrageous, friends. Oh, I'm glad that Senator Kennedy pointed out that that everyone now is pretty much in agreement. Again, when I say everyone, intelligent people you should listen to. Adam Schiff really is the biggest liar in the United States Congress. Play 2.
Well, first, with respect to Chairman Schiff, I think it's pretty well documented that Chairman Schiff has a very casual relationship with the truth. I mean, he went in front of every camera that he could and said that the Trump administration had colluded with the Russians, and then in private testified under oath that he had no evidence. In terms of the assertions that, well, this is all Russian disinformation, you can't just say that. You have to provide your proof.
That's such a Southern gentlemanly way of putting it. Has a casual relationship with the truth. Well, as we know, the Democrat Party, when it comes to Russia, has a casual relationship with reality. You know, they're really not even friends with benefits with reality. You know, they kind of just are from a distance. They're pen pals with reality. So I think that you should get ready for the most furious spinning you've ever seen at this debate on Thursday. That I do think is true. You'll see, oh my gosh, the lying. And I'll tell you this, watch the lib channels after the debate. It's so much more fun. First of all, you should watch The First, because we'll be doing some fun stuff there. But I mean, just pop in for a second and look at MSNBC and CNN and the way they're just like, oh my gosh, Joe Biden's amazing. And do you see, he must be working out. He looks great. I mean, they're just going to be such supplicants. They're going to be on air giving this guy a foot massage. I mean, it's going to be appalling. And then there's also going to be the muting of the mics, which will be interesting. Bro Cuomo, who the president referred to as Fredo earlier this week, had this to say. Play 6.
Well, why is he doing this? Is this the COVID talking? Maybe the First Lady isn't the only one who hasn't recovered. I was having hallucinations at night from fever from where the president's point is now, and they made a lot more sense than his approach to this pandemic. Now, this seems like a perfect moment for Biden to be on TV as much as he can. Should be here tonight. Talk about the pain of the pandemic. Talk about what he would do. Say what's not being done. Say what the fix is. How does that happen? His people say he's hunkered down doing debate prep. Okay. But listen, let's be honest about the debate. Them putting in the mic muting rule for 2 minutes for each guy, that's going to do most of the work for him. At least he's going to be able to make a case. For a campaign that's trying not to repeat the mistakes of Clinton 2016, they're sure quiet right now, maybe to a fault.
Yeah. Joe Biden's campaign right now is just try to ride this thing out. And that's not going to work in this debate. Even with the muted mic situation, Joe Biden's going to be exposed, friends. Can't hide in the basement forever.
It's time for roll call.
They got to bring back that, what was that, big band era music that we use in that roll call? You know, they got to bring, that's great. Those are good tunes, man. Those are groovy tunes. Groovier than
you get that on cruise ships now.
Groovier than Bruce Springsteen, I'll tell you that.
What is your vendetta against Bruce Springsteen?
I don't know, I just love it because the people who hate him love me when I say that, and then the people who love him get so mad at me, and I just think it's kind of funny to troll them a little bit.
You have like a vendetta against New York, New Jersey born artists.
No,
don't you also hate
true.
Billy Joel?
I don't hate Billy Joel. I'm not a Billy Joel fan. I don't hate Billy Joel. I don't like
one of the
Billy
best
Joel.
Concerts I've ever seen was him at the Garden.
People love Billy Joel. That's true. No, I actually like some of the Brooklyn like hipster bands, like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I like weird stuff. So no one should listen to me on that. I'm the first to admit it. So let's dive into the latest here on the roll call. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton to get in on that action. Team Buck at iHeartMedia.com if you want to send us an email. And on Instagram, just direct message Buck Sexton. And there we go. Kevin writes, hey, Buck and producer Mark. Beware, Fortnite is addictive. I'm a couple years older than you, and I started to play Fortnite with my son, and now I am hooked. It is really fun on PlayStation and a great way to waste time. I'm also starting to play Call of Duty, but I am not good at all. Once I get better, it would be awesome to join you and Jesse Kelly. Kevin, I like the idea. We should create like a Team Buck Call of Duty team. That would be fun. And we could like have a time where we all join. And there must be a way to do it where 10 of us or something could play on the same team and have a team. We do you put brackets around your team name for your username. I know how this goes now. During lockdown, I've gotten pretty good at Call of Duty. I mean, I'm competent, I'd say. When I first started, people just kept sneaking up behind me and doing all these like horrible finishing moves to me that you do to noobs or to bots. I think bots is now the new term for noob. So I've gotten better though. And I've gotten the new FIFA 21 on PlayStation 4 because I do like soccer and I like playing that soccer game. But it is a little bit disturbing when you can hear, like sometimes they have it unmuted. People will have a microphone on, and I'll hear someone who's clearly like a 10-year-old kid who's like, that's right. Just did that. Just like, yeah, in your mom's face or something. I'm like, wait, what? I'm playing a video game. Why are you talking about my mom? It's terrible. Leave her out of this. Producer Mark, people are such savages.
They're so mean to you.
They're such savages. They're like, yeah.
You could just give out your gamer tag on Twitter or something, and people could play with you. You know that, right?
No, but I should figure out a way to do that. I don't even have an account on Call of Duty. I use one of my brother's accounts, so I got to set up my own somehow. But that would be fun, man. It'd be fun. And my brother moved to Austin, Texas. He's down there now, full time, and he's loving it so far. So for KLBJ fans, I've got family down there, so I'm definitely going to be coming down, probably in November, maybe a week or two after the election, come down for the weekend. And I hope I just put out the buck signal, tell you guys that the two Sexton brothers are going to be drinking, and your first drink will be on me at some barbecue joint that we pick out, so you can come on by and we'll hang out. We'll limit it to that being true for the first like 50 people. Otherwise, producer Mark is going to have to make room on his couch for me. You know what I mean?
It's a dangerous thing to say on the radio, Buck.
Yeah, I know. The first 50 people, I'll buy them a drink if they show up. But beyond that, I'm going to have to say it's going to be a cash bar situation, folks. I'm not making that big time media guy money, so I can't really throw that cash around. But yeah, I'll be excited. I've never been to Austin before. It's been very high on my list for a while. I would have gotten there sooner, but COVID and stuff. So yeah, Fortnite, I might give it a shot, although I probably should do less video games and more time spent,
More of those podcasts you keep promising?
Yeah, well, I got one. But now that I've got one, I got to do more because what's the point of just doing one? So it's going to happen. Matt, Buck, I see a lot of self-proclaimed Marxists in a Facebook history group arguing that the Soviet Union was not capitalism, but instead were state capitalists, and that everyone misunderstands Marx and communism. I know before you have professed to being fascinated by the failure of the Soviet Union in the communist history, so I was wondering if you could clarify some of these comments. Why are Marxists going around saying no one understands Marx or communism and that it is never really being tried? Well, Matt, thank you for bringing this up. This is not new at all. In fact, this is one of the most well-known and absurd explanations for the failures of communism that exists, and that's the old, real communism has never been tried, and which is always fascinating because the communists will point to capitalism, and they'll point to the failures of capitalism and the exploitation of workers and this kind of thing, and it's never in the mindset of capitalists to say, well, real capitalism has never been tried. Right? That all the failures of capitalism are the result of either the improper implementation or government intervention that creates failures that the market's not responsible for, but the government regulations are responsible for. I'm not even saying we should take that approach, but I'm merely pointing out you could do this with anything, with any ideological system. Real Catholicism has never been tried. Real Islam has never been tried. Real Church of the Spaghetti Monster Flying Pastafarian or whatever that guy who brought that lawsuit, whatever his religion was called, right? You could always do that, but it's just intellectually flimsy, right? It's not worthwhile. And that's when you have Marxists saying that the Soviet Union was not communism, but were state capitalists. Well, the truth is that communism always turns into, in a sense, state capitalism because the people who control the means of production are, because of human nature, which Marxism unsuccessfully tries to negate, because of human nature, they will make decisions that advantage themselves and disadvantage those who are downstream from the decision making in the system. And as a result of that, you're always going to have an elite class in a communist society that's near the levers of power, and everyone else gets the lesser food, the lesser health care, the lesser everything that the system itself produces. Central planning is the original sin of communist systems. Central planning is an illogical idea. It has to fail. There's no way it could work. Think about this. You go into a grocery store right now, look at all of the different foods and products and things on the shelf. Now, people come up with that. They design the packaging. They source the materials. They grow they grow the produce, or they slaughter the protein, and they do all this, and they do it in a certain way for a profit. They do it because they benefit from doing it. And then people show their appreciation for what's being done by purchasing it. If you have central planning, it's here's what you have according to people who don't milk cows, who don't understand agriculture, who don't care what the beef actually tastes like. They're just going to make these decisions, and there's no signals from the market. There's no signals from the individuals making choices every day to show what works and what doesn't, what tastes good and what's gross, right? So central planning is inherently flawed because it relies on an information disadvantage, and it also relies on misaligned incentives. The information disadvantage is that you're not having the information pushed up from below from people that are there in the store buying, and people that are then looking at the store and also at the producer level, sending their goods to the store, looking at what's being bought and what's not, and what price people will pay and what they won't. The central planner goes beyond all that. But perhaps more worthwhile to your question about communism is that the central planner also is always incentivized to give the maximum to those making the decisions because of human nature. People are inherently self-interested and greedy. Generally, it's true. And want to help themselves and don't care about what goes to the rest. And in fact, if the rest have less because the top making these decisions will have more, there's no problem with that. And the producers are no longer incentivized to change that. They're just giving a product that they're told to under threat of force instead of the promise of reward. That's another essential truth about a communist system. You do things because the people with the guns say so, ultimately. In a capitalist system, you do things because it's good for you to do them well, and you benefit from that. So it really comes down to human nature, and that's why a Marxist system is always going to fail, because it's against human nature. People don't work as hard when they don't have incentives to work hard. They won't push and spend time developing new products or doing just more output in whatever their task is at a higher level, because there's no benefit from it, right? If I could come every day and do a radio show where I just read out of the telephone book, and you guys, well, you're the audience, so that's in a capitalist system, but the government was paying me and not the audience, and I could just sit here and read out of a telephone book and get paid the same amount of money and have the same amount of stations carry me. That's communism, baby. That's what ends up happening. People go, okay, well, I'm going to read out of the telephone book. Too bad. And the audience will have to listen to me do that, and that's it. So that's why communism always fails everywhere it has ever been tried. And it's not that real communism hasn't been tried. It's that communism will really fail. All right, roll call rolls on here. TJ, Buck, I think Trump needs to address the Hunter Biden emails in tomorrow's debate, but not in a way that's overbearing. Maybe at the beginning of the debate, simply tell Joe that he's not going to ask this Joe several times this question during the debate. Joe will likely not answer the question. And then for the rest of the debate, every time Trump answers a question, he just throw in a quick line at the end. Emails Joe, true or false, true or false. Well, TJ, I see what you're trying to do. You want to make sure that the point gets across without the president seeming like he's being too aggressive or overbearing. And there certainly will be ways to do that. As for the best strategy to achieve that, the president, I think, he's going to figure this out. I believe you're going to see a more disciplined, more focused Trump tomorrow night on that debate stage, and that's going to make a lot of difference. Now, when I say more disciplined, I'm not saying that he's going to sound like William F. Buckley up there. What's going on here? What are we talking about today? It's not going to be like that. He's going to be Trump. But he is going to be more focused in on making sure that people see the differences between him and Biden. And I think that's going to be a good night for the president. I really believe that. And this email thing for Joe Biden, it's going to look bad. Biden's in a tough spot. Everything Biden's going to throw at Trump, he's thrown it at him before, and we've all heard it a million times. Hey, Joe, did you ever get money from your son's shady deals? If he's just evasive on that, if he doesn't say that's an outright lie, the emails are fake, it's Russian disinformation. I mean, if he doesn't go on full-on offense, people are going to say, so it is kind of true, right? People are going to realize, Happy learned how to putt. All right. Michael. Hey, producer Mark and the Buck. Sloppy Joes are a staple in my house. Brown ground beef. Add mustard, ketchup, and brown sugar. Amazing. You guys must have had awful lunch ladies because at 37, my friends and I still talk about the amazing lunches we had back in school. I've made my favorite school lunches for my kids. Shields high. Let's bring back the first 3 years, even the last half of 2020 into the next election. Well, Michael, maybe I talked some smack about Sloppy Joes, and now I need to give it a shot. Maybe I need to, give it a. But do you put cheese? Do producer Mark? Do you put cheese in a Sloppy Joe?
I think traditionally no, but I guess you can.
But what about cheese in my Sloppy Joe? I don't know. I just feel like that would probably.
It sounds like it would make it better. Cheese makes everything better.
Yeah. Cheese is one of my food weaknesses. French fries, cheese, chocolate. If I cut those things out, you could grate Parmesan cheese off my abs. But French fries, cheese, chocolate.
And if you combine those first two things, you have something delicious.
Cheese fries. I'm pretty sure at Shake Shack, which is a staple of my COVID diet, unfortunately for my waistline, I'm pretty sure that Shake Shack, the cheese fries have more calories all in than like a large order of cheese fries have more calories than the double Shake Shack burger, or it's close. So
Shake Shack's fries aren't even that good.
The fries are good. They're not great. They're better than In-N-Out burger fries, but that's a piece of cardboard that a 16-wheeler has run over in a puddle tastes better than Shake Shack. It tastes better than In-N-Out burger fries. Just saying, folks. I speak the truth. I bring you the truth. Here we go. Chris, Brother Buck, your show is one of the best parts of my day. Well, Chris, that means a lot. Thank you so much, honestly. We put so much work into this, and that it means something like that to good folks like you is a tremendously encouraging thing. This Saturday, the 24th, is the last Mississippi boat parade before the election. It will be in Biloxi, Mississippi. We've had huge turnout at every one, but with a shout-out from you, I'm hoping we can finish with the biggest yet. I've got a spot on the boat left, and I can't think of a better buccaneer to captain the ship. If you can make it down, shields high. Also, if you can make it down, Producer Mark, we'll hook him up with a jet ski. Producer Mark, would you like to go jet skiing in Mississippi?
I do like jet skis, but I think we have to stay here because we've got an election to prepare for.
That's a fair point. But I like that he knew that you were going to be the jet ski guy. But I
wouldn't even be in the parade. I would just kind of be having fun with the jet ski somewhere else.
Yeah, Chris, so you understand. You and I would be on the boat eating barbecue, and then Producer Mark would laugh maniacally as he screamed past us on the jet ski and used the wake to splash me, because that's the way that he would roll. So just be aware of
100%, yes.
100% true. We all know it. Wilson, Buck and Mark, Scarecrow Joe on the left claim that the American people deserve a say in who becomes the next justice. However, Scarecrow Joe, I haven't heard of this Scarecrow Joe thing, won't say whom he would nominate. So how in the heck are American people supposed to have a say? Votes can't reflect a choice in a prospective justice when there are no prospective justices. It's the same story. Nonsense, man. Shields high. Wilson, they don't want to tell you the truth about this because the truth is not an advantage for the Democrats. And so what do? They avoid, they evade, they prevaricate. That's a fun word. Use that one today. And they dissemble, another fun word. You can use that one too. Team, pass the buck, especially this election season. A great time to get new people listening to the show. That's how this show grows. I haven't raised millions of dollars from donors to buy big Facebook pages and, create some funnel for my content. The only reason more people listen to this show is because, well, they like the show, and you tell them about it. So pass the buck. Get them to listen to the podcast on the iHeart app, Spotify, you name it. Until tomorrow, friends, shields high.